So this is interesting. Chael Sonnen, UFC legend, calls Islam Makhachev's move from lightweight to welterweight a sign of cowardice. This is interesting. I don't necessarily disagree, and I don't necessarily agree. I think I have to play devil's advocate for both sides and take the position of the middle of the fence, or sit on the fence in between both sides, as that term is otherwise known. But yeah, I'll go through my reasoning both in support for what Chael Sonnen said, and also in what's it called? Also in denial of what Chael Sonnen said. But yeah, so to support Chael Sonnen and what he said, Ilia Topuria is a big bad man. He's a big bad man. He's a bad mamma jamma right now in the UFC. He's done incredible stuff. Keep in mind, he doesn't have a handful of title defenses at featherweight. He doesn't. He can also really, right now, still be considered a newly minted featherweight champ. He only defended the belt against Max Holloway. That being said, the things he's been able to do at featherweight already are incredible. They're incredible. They're unthinkable, and they were recently known as impossible. No one had ever knocked out Max Holloway. Max Holloway had been dropped before, but no man has ever knocked out Max Blessed Holloway. Ilia Topuria did so after knocking out Alexander the Great Volkanovski, my favorite UFC fighter of all time and one of the best UFC fighters of all time. Ilia did that, and he did it quick. And then he did the same thing against Max Holloway, back to back. That says something. I think it says enough to get him a shot at a belt at a different weight class. That's just my opinion, okay? I think Ilia had a right to call for Islam Makhachev after knocking out Max Holloway. Now, the decision to take that fight or not is Islam's, because Islam is the champion at lightweight. Ilia can't just force Islam to accept his challenge. But I think it was an acceptable challenge. I think if Islam, although Ilia is coming from the featherweight division, defeating Ilia would still do a lot for Islam right now. Despite Islam being at lightweight, Ilia having been at featherweight, Ilia not really truly being a true lightweight yet, because he hasn't had a lightweight fight yet. I still think Islam knocking out Ilia or beating Ilia in any fashion would do wonders for Islam still, despite Islam already being a top fighter, number one pound for pound, and already headed to the GOAT list, the top 10 UFC fighters all time, or top 5, But still, a fight against Ilia, I still think would have been great for Islam. Despite, Ilia not necessarily earning it because he's not a true lightweight, I think what Ilia has done, the star he is, the talent he has, it rightfully projects him up towards greatness, and headed towards a title shot in a different division. I think it does. On the other side of things, I do absolutely understand that Ilia isn't a true lightweight. He doesn't have enough title defenses at featherweight to even, logically warrant him a shot at a different belt at a different weight class. And Ilia himself oftentimes is just ahead of his own thinking. He's ahead of himself in many ways. And it's Islam's choice. It's up to Islam. Islam saying no to that shot is totally okay, because Islam is the lightweight king. He doesn't owe anybody anything. So is it really cowardice for Islam to say no? When looking at both sides of this, oh man, I'm not gonna take this. Look, I see a side for yes, because again, Ilia is on a meteoric rise right towards his belt. So for Islam to take that challenge and snuff that meteoric rise out, that would have shown a lot of gusto. It would have done a lot for Islam. I think it still would have done a lot for Islam. I really do. Despite Ilia not being a true lightweight, I still think Islam had a lot to gain, or would have had a lot to gain against Ilia. He would have had a lot to lose as well, but a lot to gain. You know, so it could show that Islam's afraid of Ilia. It could. Islam packing up his bags, dropping the belt, and moving on. The minute Ilia is on this huge comet headed right into the lightweight division, it shows a little bit of fear. It shows a little bit of fear. I gotta tell you. I gotta be honest. But again, Islam has the right to say no and do whatever he wants, because Islam doesn't have much to prove right now. He doesn't. He's a lightweight king. He's defended the lightweight belt a number of times. His reign has been really long, and he's already close to the top of the top all time. You know, and him moving weight classes to welterweight and kicking butt at welterweight would do a lot for Islam still. So, yeah, Islam is missing out by not taking the Ilia fight, but what he's missing out on could eventually be taken right back by getting another belt at welterweight, which is possible. Islam can beat JDM. The Islam JDM fight, I could talk about it in another video and get real specific, but yeah, Islam has a chance against JDM. But when looking at what Chael Sonnen said, I see evidence towards it not being true. I see evidence towards it being true, and I respect Islam too much to really say he's being a coward here, and I respect Ilia too much to say that Ilia's move to lightweight is just something you could just shove off and not pay any attention to. But let me know what you think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn the notifications on. I love you guys. I'll see you all in the next Glove Knowledge.